Hello, good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. So today we're going to be getting into The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, also entitled An Encyclopedic Outline of Masonic, Hermetic, Qabbalistic, and Rosicrucian Symbolical Philosophy. So welcome. We're getting into today 25. The Ancient Mysteries and Secret Societies, Part 2. And today we begin with a picture entitled Abraxas, a Gnostic pantheos. Okay, so let's figure out the whole, hey, no capitals, welcome all. The zooming. This one, I think I didn't have to zoom in super far because it's such a big picture. Here we go. Abraxas, snakes. It's a chariot. The sun, the moon, the whip, the rooster. 4 horses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like an orange slice. Cool. Copyrighted by Manly P. Hall. Okay, let's get this back to where it's going to be. Boop. Okay, so this says underneath Abraxas, a Gnostic pantheos, the name Abraxas, coined by Basilides, or Basilides, the Egyptian Gnostic, so that's a person, is a word symbol consisting of 7 letters which signify the 7 creative powers or planetary angles. I think it says angels, or planetary angels recognized by the ancients. Samson Arnold Mackey advances the theory that the name is compounded from 2 ancient words, abir, which is A-B-I-R, which means a bull, and axis, A-X-I-S, which means the pole. To substantiate his belief, he brings forward the fact that a motion of the earth, commonly called the alternation of the poles, resulted in the vernal equinox taking place at one time in Taurus, the celestial bull, over the North Pole. The 4 white horses drawing the chariot of Abraxas symbolize the 4 centers, or rather, the 4 ethers, by means of which the solar power Abraxas is circulated through all parts of the universe. Genevieve, Simon, welcome everyone. Good to see you. It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Yeah. The 7-lettered name of Abraxas is symbolically significant of his 7-rayed power. That the modern world has any knowledge whatever of ancient Gnostic symbolism is largely due to the cupidity of those individuals who set themselves the task of destroying every intelligible record of Gnostic philosophy, for wishing to keep rather than destroy articles of commercial value. These fanatics preserved gems upon which Gnostic symbols were engraved. The above plate is the enlargement and amplification of a Gnostic jewel. Wow! The original stone being only a trifle over an inch in height. Rings and other articles of jewelry set with Gnostic gems were undoubtedly used by members of the cult as means of identification. As the order was a secret society, the designs were small and inconspicuous. Kodaka Beats, welcome. Welcome, dude. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back, No Capitals. Awesome-o. Fascinating. Okay, so part 2 of the Ancient Mysteries and Secret Societies. The entire history of Christian and pagan Gnosticism is shrouded in the deepest mystery and obscurity. For while the Gnostics were undoubtedly prolific writers, little of their literature has survived. They brought down upon themselves the animosity of the early Christian church, and when this institution reached its position of world power, it destroyed all available records of the Gnostic cultus. The name Gnostic means wisdom or knowledge, and is derived from the Greek gnosis. The members of the order claimed to be familiar with the secret doctrines of early Christianity. They interpreted the Christian mysteries according to pagan symbolism. Their secret information and philosophic tenets they concealed from the profane and taught to a small group only of especially initiated persons. Ooh, I'm going to spray this stuff in my throat. Entertainer's secret. I got it from my grandma. I love it, though. Rose, welcome in. Awesome. Good to see you. Happy Wednesday. Simon Magus, the magician of New Testament fame, is often supposed to have been the founder of Gnosticism. If this be true, the sect was formed during the century after Christ and is probably the first of the many branches which have sprung from the main trunk of Christianity. Everything with which the enthusiasts of the early Christian church might not agree, they declared to be inspired by the devil. That Simon Magus had mysterious and supernatural powers is concealed even by his enemies, but they maintained that these powers were lent to him by the infernal spirit and furies, which they asserted were his ever-present companions. Undoubtedly, the most interesting legend concerning Simon is that which tells of his theosophic contests with the Apostle Peter while the two were promulgating their differing doctrines in Rome. According to the story that the church fathers have preserved, Simon was to prove his spiritual superiority by ascending to heaven in a chariot of fire. He was actually picked up and carried many feet into the air by invisible powers. When Saint Peter saw this, he cried out in a loud voice, ordering the demons, spirits of the air, to release their hold upon the magician. The evil spirits, when so ordered by the great saint, were forced to obey. Simon fell a great distance and was killed, which decisively proved the superiority of the Christian powers. This story is undoubtedly manufactured out of whole cloth, as it is only one out of many accounts concerning his death, few of which agree. As more and more evidence is being amassed to the effect that St. Peter was never in Rome, its last possible vestige of authenticity is rapidly being dissipated. That Simon was a philosopher, there is no doubt, for wherever his exact words are preserved, his synthetic and transcending thoughts are beautifully expressed. The principles of Gnosticism are well described in the following verbatim statement by him, supposed to have been preserved by Hippolytus. Quote, "To you, therefore, I say what I say, and write what I write. And the writing is this: of the universal aeons, periods, planes, or cycles of creative and created life in substance and space, celestial creatures, there are two shoots, without beginning or end, springing from one root, which is the power invisible, inapprehensible silence." And then in quotes it says, Bythos, Bythos, period. "Of these shoots, one is manifested from above, which is the great power, the universal mind, ordering all things, male and the other, is manifested from below, the great thought, female, producing all things. Hence, pairing with each other, they unite and manifest the middle distance, incomprehensible air, without beginning or end. In this is the Father, who sustains all things and nourishes those things which have a beginning and end. End quote. Boom. The sun and the moon. In parentheses, it says, see Simon Magus by G.R.S. Mead. By this, we are to understand that manifestation is the result of a positive and a negative principle, one acting upon the other, and it takes place in the middle plane, or point of equilibrium, called the pleroma. This pleroma is a particular substance produced out of the blending of the spiritual and material aeons. Out of the pleroma was individualized the demiurgus, I think. The immortal mortal, to whom we are responsible for our physical existence and the suffering we must go through in connection with it. In the Gnostic system, 3 points of opposites, called syzygies, which is Syzygies, syzygies, maybe that's how you pronounce it. So in the Gnostic system, 3 pairs of opposites, called syzygies, emanated from the Eternal One. These, with himself, make the total of 7. The 6, 3 pairs, aeons, living divine principles, were described by Simon in the Philosophumena in the following manner. The first 2 were mind, nous, and thought, epinoia. Then came voice, phone, and its opposite, name, or anoma. And lastly, reason, logismos, and reflection, enthumesis. From these primordial 6, united with the eternal flame, came forth the aeons, or angels, who formed the lower worlds through the direction of the demiurgus. See the works of H.P. Blavatsky. How this first Gnosticism of Simon Magus and Menander, his disciple, was amplified and frequently distorted by later adherents to the cult must now be considered. This picture in the middle here, it's called The Death of Simon the Magician. Let's take a look. I think I can put this one way zoomed in. The Death of Simon the Magician. Boom. If I can get it even closer. There's like weird faces in the wings and acorn. Religion. Interesting. Symbolism. It's okay. Yeah, let me get this back down to the 1, 2, 2. Hey, it went right away that time. Okay, The Death of Simon the Magician. This is what it says under that picture from the Nuremberg Chronicle. Let's put this up a little bit. So, Simon Magus. Am I saying that right? magus, having called upon the spirits of the air, is here shown being picked up by the demons. St. Peter demands that the evil genii release their hold upon the magician. The demons are forced to comply, and Simon Magus is killed by the fall. Hey, that way, welcome in. Oh, so they're like demons. Okay, so wait, I'm going to read that last sentence. How this first Gnosticism of Simon Magus and Menander, his disciple, was amplified and frequently distorted by later adherents to the cult must now be considered. The school of Gnosticism was divided into two major parts, commonly called the Syrian cult and the Alexandrian cult. These schools agreed in essentials, but the latter division was more inclined to be pantheistic, while the former was dualistic. While the Syrian cult was largely Simonian, the Alexandrian school was the outgrowth of the philosophical deductions of a clever Egyptian Christian, Basilides by name, who claimed to have received his instructions from the apostle Matthew. Like Simon Magus, he was an emanationist with Neoplatonic inclinations. In fact, the entire Gnostic mystery is based upon the hypothesis of emanations as being the logical connection between the irreconcilable opposites, absolute spirit and absolute substance, which the Gnostics believe to have been coexistent in eternity. Some assert that Basilides was the true founder of Gnosticism, but there is much evidence to the effect that Simon Magus laid down its fundamental principles in the preceding century. The Alexandrian Basilides inculcated Egyptian Hermeticism, Oriental occultism, Chaldean astrology, and Persian philosophy in his followers, and in his doctrines sought to unite the schools of early Christianity with the ancient pagan mysteries. To him is attributed the formulation of that peculiar concept of the deity, which carries the name of Abraxas. In discussing the original meaning of this word, Godfrey Higgins, in his Celtic Druids, has demonstrated that the numerological powers of the letters forming the word Abraxas, when added together, result in the sum of 365. The same author also notes that the name Mithras, when treated in a similar manner, has the same numerical value. Basilides taught that the powers of the universe were divided into 365 aeons, or spiritual cycles, and that the sum of all these together was the Supreme Father. And to him he gave the Qabbalistic appellation Abraxas, as being symbolical, numerological, of his divine powers, attributes, and emanations. Abraxas is usually symbolized as a composite creature with the body of a human being and the head of a rooster, and with each of his legs ending in a serpent. C.W. King, in his Gnostics and Their Remains, gives the following concise description of the Gnostic philosophy of Basilides, quoting from the writings of the early Christian bishop and martyr Saint Irenaeus. Quote, he asserted that God, the uncreated, eternal Father, had first brought forth nous, or mind, this the Logos, word, this again, phronesis, intelligence. From phronesis sprung Sophia, wisdom, and dynamis, strength, end quote. Wow. My headphones are telling me that I didn't turn them off and they're dying. So I need to do that so I can work on some more stuff with them. Eee! Whoa. Okay, where's that plug? I thought I turned you off. Oh, yeah, but I got back in there. Okay, now it's charging. Boom. We're good. Silent G. Magus. Thank you. Or like soft, is that what you mean? So that was cool. Okay, wait, I'm going to take a little cough break. Thank you, Simon. Thank you. In describing Abraxas, C.W. King says, quote, Bellarmine considers the composite image, inscribed with the actual name Abraxas, to be a Gnostic pantheos representing the supreme being, with the 5 emanations marked out by appropriate symbols. From the human body, the usual form assigned to the deity, spring the 2 supporters, nous, which is Nous, and logos, expressed in the serpent, symbol of the inner senses, and the quickening understanding, on which account the Greeks had made the serpent the attribute of Pallas, Pallas. His head, that of a cock, represents phronesis, that bird being the emblem of foresight and of vigilance. His 2 arms hold the symbols of Sophia and Dynamis, the shield of wisdom and the whip of power. End quote. The Gnostics were divided in their opinions concerning the demiurgus, or, is that the one that is the softer G? Demiurgus? I think it's demiurgus. Demiurge. But that doesn't mean that it holds. I tried to pin this back with a, it didn't work though. It still fell down. A bobby pin. I know you guys are super fascinated about my hair. Okay, off I go now. Demiurgus. The Gnostics were divided in their opinions concerning the demiurgus, or creator of the lower worlds. He established the terrestrial universe with the aid of 6 suns, or emanations, possibly the planetary angels, which he formed out of and yet within himself. As stated before, the demiurgus was individualized as the lowest creation out of the substance called pleroma. One group of the Gnostics was of the opinion that the demiurgus was the cause of all misery and was an evil creature, who by building his lower world had separated the souls of men from truth by encasing them in mortal vehicles. The other sect viewed the demiurgus as being divinely inspired and merely fulfilling the dictates of the invisible Lord. Some Gnostics were of the opinion that the Jewish god, Jehovah, was the demiurgus. This concept, under a slightly different name, apparently influenced medieval Rosicrucianism, which viewed Jehovah as the Lord of the material universe rather than as the supreme deity. Mythology abounds with the stories of gods who partook of both celestial and terrestrial natures. Odin of Scandinavia is a good example of a deity subject to mortality, bowing before the laws of nature and yet being, in certain senses at least, a supreme deity. The Gnostic viewpoint concerning the Christ is well worthy of consideration. This order claimed to be the only sect to have actual pictures of the divine Syrian. While these were, in all probability, idealistic conceptions of the Savior based upon existing scripturings and paintings of the pagan sun gods. They were all Christianity had. To the Gnostics, the Christ was the personification of Nous, the divine mind, and emanated from the higher spiritual aeons. He descended into the body of Jesus at the baptism and left it again before the crucifixion. The Gnostics declared that the Christ was not crucified, as this divine Nous could not suffer death, but that Simon, the Cyrenian, offered his life instead, and that the Nous, by means of its power, caused Simon to resemble Jesus. Irenaeus makes the following statement concerning the cosmic sacrifice of the Christ. Quote, "When the uncreated, unnamed Father saw the corruption of mankind, he sent his firstborn, Nous, into the world, in the form of Christ, for the redemption of all who believe in him, out of the power of those that have fabricated the world." And in parentheses it says, "the Demiurgus and his 6 sons, the planetary genii," end quote, or end parentheses. "He appeared amongst men as the man Jesus and wrought miracles," end quote. See King's Gnostics and Their Remains. The Gnostics divided humanity into 3 parts: those who, as savages, worshipped only the visible nature, those who, like the Jews, worshipped the Demiurgus, and lastly, themselves, or others of a similar cult, including certain sects of Christians who worshipped Nous, or Christ, and the true spiritual light of the higher aeons. After the death of Basilides, Valentinus became the leading inspiration of the Gnostic movement. He still further complicated the system of Gnostic philosophy by adding infinitely to the details. He increased the number of emanations from the Great One, the Abyss, to 15 pairs, and also laid much emphasis on the Virgin Sophia, or wisdom. In the books of the Savior, parts of which are commonly known as the Pistis Sophia, may be found much material concerning this strange doctrine of aeons and their strange inhabitants. James Freeman Clarke, in speaking of the doctrines of the Gnostics, says, quote, "These doctrines, strange as they seem to us, had a wide influence in the Christian church." That was his quote. Many of the theories of the ancient Gnostics, especially those concerning scientific subjects, have been substantiated by modern research. Several sects branched off from the main stem of Gnosticism, such as the Valentinians, the Ophites, or serpent worshippers, and the Adamites. After the 3rd century, their power waned, and the Gnostics practically vanished from the philosophic world. An effort was made during the Middle Ages to resurrect the principles of Gnosticism, but owing to the destruction of their records and material necessary was not available. The material necessary was not available. Even today, there are evidences of Gnostic philosophy in the modern world, but they bear other names, and their true origin is not suspected. Many of the Gnostic concepts have actually been incorporated into the dogmas of the Christian Church, and our newer interpretations of Christianity are often along the lines of Gnostic emanationism. There's some hieroglyphics in this little title right here. The Mysteries of Asar Happy, which is hyphenated. And then over here, we've got some pictures on this side too. From Montfaucon's Antiquities, the lion-faced light power. Ooh, it's another Gnostic gem. And then we have a symbolic labyrinth. Cool. Let's take a look. This one's, I feel like I got to stand to be able to see what I'm doing on this one. Okay, here we go. So, the lion-faced light power. This Gnostic gem represents. No, I'm gonna read it after I put it back down. And then over here we've got this one, a symbolic labyrinth, also from Montfaucon's Antiquities. Well, I don't know. Okay. So the lion-faced light power. This Gnostic gem represents by its serpentine body the pathway of the sun, and by its lion head the exhalation of the solar orb in the constellation of Leo. Cool. Pearl, welcome. Awesome. And then that symbolic labyrinth. Labyrinths and mazes were favored places of initiation among many ancient cults. Remains of these mystic mazes have been found among the American Indians, Hindus, Persians, Egyptians, and Greeks. Some of these mazes are merely involved pathways lined with stones. Others are literally miles of gloomy caverns under temples or hollowed from the sides of mountains. Hollowed from the sides of mountains. The famous labyrinth of Crete, in which roamed the bull-headed Minotaur, was unquestionably a place of initiation into the Cretan mysteries. Cool. Itchy. So itchy. Okay. So the mysteries of Asar Hapi. HAPI. The identity of the Greco-Egyptian Serapis, known to the Greeks as Serapis, and to the Egyptians, is it Serapis? Serapis, and the Egyptians as Asar Hapi, is shrouded by an impenetrable veil of mystery. While this deity was a familiar figure among the symbols of the secret Egyptian initiatory rites, his arcane nature was revealed only to those who had fulfilled the requirements of the Serapic cultus. I should probably look it up right. Serapis. I should probably looked up a bunch of these for pronunciation. Ra, like this. Oh, caps lock. Serapis pronunciation. Boom. Serapes. I'm glad I looked. Serapes. Cool. Serapes. Hopefully, yeah, Serapes. And then ancient Egyptian Happy was the god of the annual flooding of the Nile in ancient Egyptian religion. The flood deposited rich salt, fertile soil. Let's just go. I'm not sure. It's not really giving me what I was looking for. Asar.
We are looking at how to pronounce this name, as well as how to say more interesting and related names as well. So make sure to stay tuned and consider subscribing for more learning.
This is 34 seconds.
How do you say it? Aser.
Aser.
Pretty straightforward once you know.
Aser happy.
Aser. And
Aser.
now you know.
Aser.
Here are more videos on how to pronounce more interesting names whose pronunciations aren't.
Aser. Aser. Serapes. 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 Okay, back to this. Serapes. Okay, so the mysteries. Oh wait, okay. The mysteries of Aser happy. The identity of the Greco-Egyptian Serapes, known to the Greeks as Serapes and to the Egyptians as Aser happy, is shrouded by an impenetrable an impenetrable veil of mystery. While this deity was a familiar figure among the symbols of the secret Egyptian initiatory rites, his arcane nature was revealed only to those who had fulfilled the requirements of the Serapic cultus. Therefore, in all probability, excepting the initiated priests, the Egyptians themselves were ignorant of his true character. So far as known, there exists no authentic account of the rites of Serapes, but an analysis of the deity and his accompanying symbols reveals their salient points. In an oracle delivered to the king of Cyprus, Serapes described himself thus, quote, "A god I am, such as I show to thee. The starry heavens are my head, my trunk the sea. Earth forms my feet, mine ears the air supplies. The sun's far darting, brilliant rays, mine eyes. End quote. Several unsatisfactory attempts have been made to etymologize the word Serapes. Godfrey Higgins notes that Soros was the name given by the Egyptians to a stone coffin, and Apis was Osiris incarnate in the sacred bull. These two words combined result in Soros Apis or Sorapis, quotes the tomb of the bull. Serapis. Appease? Maybe it's appease then. It's not, since it's Serapes. Appease. I thought it was Apis. Probably because of Xena, though. Okay. But it is important that the Egyptians would worship. But it is improbable that the Egyptians would worship a coffin in the form of a man. Several ancient authors, including Macrobius, have affirmed that Serapes was a name for the sun, because his image so often had a halo of light about its head. In his Oration upon the Sovereign Sun, Julian speaks of the deity in these words, quote, "One Jove," it's Jove, "one Pluto, one sun is Serapes," end quote. In Hebrew, Serapes is seraph, meaning to blaze out or to blaze up. For this reason, the Jews designated one of their hierarchies of spiritual beings seraphim. The most common theory, however, regarding the origin of the name Serapes is that which traces its derivation from the compound Osiris Apis, or Apis. At one time, the Egyptians believed that the dead were absorbed into the nature of Osiris, the god of the dead. While marked similarity exists between Osiris Apis and Serapes, the theory advanced the Egyptologists that Serapes is merely a name given to the dead Apis, or sacred bull of Egypt, is untenable in view of the transcendent wisdom possessed by the Egyptian priestcraft, who, in all probability, used the god to symbolize the soul of the world, anima mundi. The material body of nature was called Apis, APIS, the soul which escaped from the body at death, but was enmeshed with the form during physical life, was designated Serapes. C.W. King believes Serapes to be a deity of Brahmanic extraction, his name being the Grecianized form of Sarada or Sripa, two titles ascribed to Yama, the Hindu god of death. This appears reasonable, especially since there is a legend to the effect that Serapes, in the form of a bull, was driven by Bacchus from India to Egypt. The priority of the Hindu mysteries would further substantiate such a theory. Among other meanings suggested for the word Serapes are, quote, the sacred bull, the sun in Taurus, which we just had yesterday, the soul of Osiris, the sacred serpent, and the retiring of the bull. The last appellation has reference to the ceremony of drowning the sacred Apis in the waters of the Nile every 25 years. Fiona, great to see you. Welcome in. Happy Wednesday. Cool. There is considerable evidence that the famous statue of Serapes in the Serapeum at Alexandria was originally worshipped under another name at Sinope, Sinope. Sinope? Sinope? Excuse me, from which it was brought to Alexandria. I don't understand what I just read. There is considerable evidence that the famous statue of Serapes in the Serapeum at Alexandria was originally worshipped under another name at Sinope, from which it was brought to Alexandria. Okay. There is also a legend which tells that Serapes was a very early king of the Egyptians, to whom they owed the foundation of their philosophical and scientific power. After his death, this king was elevated to the estate of a god. Phylarchus declared that the word Serapes means, quote, the power that disposed the universe into its present beautiful order, end quote. In his Isis and Osiris, Plutarch gives the following account of the origin of the magnificent statue of Serapes, which stood in the Serapeum at Alexandria. Semicolon. While he was pharaoh of Egypt, Ptolemy Soter, balls, I don't know, had a strange dream in which he beheld a tremendous statue which came to life and ordered the pharaoh to bring it to Alexandria with all possible speed. Ptolemy Soter, not knowing the whereabouts of the statue, was sorely perplexed as to how he could discover it. While the pharaoh was relating his dream, a great traveler by the name of Sosibius, coming forward, declared that he had seen such an image at Sinope. Balls. I gotta learn how to say that word. I think because it's a place. Sinope. Sinope. Cool. There seems like there's quite a few. Oh, apis. Appease. Apis.
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 All of the things I was saying was wrong.
Apis.
Thank you. Apis. Cool. Apis. Serapes. Apis. Oh yeah, Soter. Ptolemy Soter. Oh, oops, I clicked that right out. Okay, let's try that. No, not Ptolemy. I know how to say that one. Let's just try this. Soter. It's Soter. Soter. Okay, Soter. Thank you. Soter. Boop. Cool. Ptolemy Soter. Okay. Where am I? Okay. Ptolemy Toter. Or Ptolemy Soter. Ptolemy Toter. Oops. Okay. So Ptolemy Soter. Oh, so the person speaks up, right? So Sibius, coming forward, declared that he had seen such an image at Sinope. Right? Is that what I said? Sinope? I hope so. At Sinope. The pharaoh immediately dispatched Sotiles and Dionysus to negotiate for the removal of the figure to Alexandria. 3 years elapsed before the image was finally obtained. The representatives of the pharaoh finally stealing it and concealing the theft by spreading a story that the statue had come to life and, walking down the street leading from its temple, had boarded the ship prepared for its transport to Alexandria. Upon its arrival in Egypt, the figure was brought into the presence of 2 Egyptian initiates, the Eumolpid, which is Eumolpid, a name, the Eumolpid Timotheus, and Manatheo the Sebonite, who immediately pronounced it to be Serapis. Oh, wait. Serapes. Oh my gosh. The priests then declared that it was equipollent. It's on 2 words. Equipollent. Equipollent. Equivalent to Pluto. Equivalent. I can't get to my keyboard. Okay, let's push it this way. There we go. Equivalent. Oh shit, where is it? There it is, equivalent. The priest then declared that it was equivalent to Pluto. The same thing? That's what it feels like. Equivalent. Oh, not pronunciation, but yeah, let's find out.
Equipollent.
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 Thank you. Equipollent. And then what does it mean? The meaning of equipollent is equal in force, power, or validity. Cool. Dude, I should start writing down all the words that I look up because I think, yeah. Then I can help keep them fresh in my mind. I did have a paper. Let's use this one. Oh, wait, no, wait. This is like I have another one that's identical to this. Equipollent. Here it is. In stacks of things, books. Okay, let's go to the middle of this one. Equipollent. Oh, my favorite pen is over here. Okay, I'm writing it down. Equipollent. I'll at least write the word down. I won't take all the time to write down the meaning of it. I can study more later. Okay, equipollent. Cool. Equal in force, power, and validity. So the priests then declared that it was equipollent to Pluto. This was a masterly stroke. For the Serapes, the Greeks and Egyptians found a deity in common, and thus religious unity was consummated between the two nations. Several figures of Serapes that stood in his various temples in Egypt and Rome have been described by early authors. Nearly all these showed Grecian rather than Egyptian influence. In some, the body of the god was encircled by the coils of a great serpent. Others showed him as a composite of Osiris and Apis. A description of the god that in all probability is reasonably accurate is that which represents him as a tall, powerful figure, conveying the twofold impression of manly strength and womanly grace. His face is portrayed a deeply pensive mood, his expression inclining toward sadness. His hair was long and arranged in a somewhat feminine manner, resting in curls upon his breast and shoulders. The face, save for its heavy beard, was also decidedly feminine. The figure of Serapes was usually robed from head to foot in heavy draperies, believed by initiates to conceal the fact that the body was androgynous. There's a picture right here. The Alexandrian Serapes. And it's a bunch of what we just described. So let's take a look. Wow, yeah, it's been I'm going to have to pee. I drank a ton of tea this morning and this afternoon. Right. The Zoom. This one, let's just try not quite as zoomed up as I did before. Let's try like that. Boom. How do I get this in better? There we go. Okay. Boop. Okay. So let's see here. It says, the Alexandrian Serapes. Serapes is often shown standing on the back of the sacred crocodile, carrying in his left hand a rule with which to measure the inundations of the Nile. The balancing with his right hand and balancing with his right hand a curious emblem consisting of an animal with 3 heads. Wow, I didn't realize it had 3 heads. I see them now. They're like horse heads and a lion head or something. Of 3 heads. The first head, that of a lion, signified the present. The second head, that of a wolf. Oh. The past. And the third head, that of a dog. Wow, they look like horses to me. The future. Wow, okay, so wait. The lion is the present. The wolf is the past. And the dog is the future. Wow. The lion, the present. The wolf, the past. The dog, the future. The body, with its 3 heads, was enveloped by the twisting coils of a serpent. Figures of serapes are occasionally accompanied by Cerberus, the 3-headed dog of Pluto, and, like Jupiter, carry baskets of grain upon their heads. Wow. So, various substances were used in making the statues of Serapes. Yeah. Some undoubtedly were carved from stone or marble by skilled craftsmen. Others may have been cast from base or precious metals. One colossus of Serapes was composed of plates of various metals fitted together. In a labyrinth sacred to Serapes stood the 13-foot statue of him reputed to have been made from a single emerald. Wow. Serapes. Balls. I'm really getting confused on how to say this word. Serapes. It was U-H-U-U-H. Serapes. 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 An emerald, a single emerald. Modern writers discussing this image state that it was made of green glass poured into a mold. According to the Egyptians, however, it withstood all the tests of an actual emerald. Wow. Clement of Alexandria describes a figure of Serapes, compounded from the following elements. First, fillings of gold, silver, lead, and tin. Second, all manner of Egyptian stones, including sapphires, hematites, emeralds, and topaz. All these being ground down and mixed together with the coloring matter left over from the funeral of Osiris and Apis. The result was a rare and curious figure, indigo in color. Some of the statues of Serapes must have been formed of extremely hard substances, for when a Christian soldier, carrying out the edict of Theodosius, struck the Alexandrian Serapes with his axe, that instrument was shattered into fragments and sparks flew from it. It is also quite probable that Serapis was worshipped in the form of a serpent, in common with many of the higher deities of the Egyptian and Greek pantheons. I have to look it up again. I got to hear him say it again. Equipolent.
Equipolent.
Okay. And then Serapes. There it is. Serapes. I think. Serapes. It's almost like Serapes, but Serapes. It's not that hard. I can do this. Serapes. It's true. I do. Serapes. It is. It's really just like Serapes. Okay. And I have to pee. Where am I? And I'm going to do that. And then we'll come back into the Serapes stuffs. I'm at the top of this one. Yeah, Greek pantheons. Okay, so I'm a second paragraph on the last of this one. I'll be right back. Gotta pee. Boop. Much better. Serapes. Yeah. Okay. Allie peas. I did anyways. I feel so much better. I'll stop being funny while you're gone. Yeah, right. That's good. Okay, Serapes. Serapes was called Theon Heptagrammaton, or the god with the name of 7 letters. The name Serapes, like Abraxas and Mithras, contains 7 letters. My name contains the 7 letters. Anyways. Yeah, I just had to count it. I didn't just know. Okay. Occasionally, Serapes is depicted with horns or a coronet of 7 rays. These evidently represented the 7 divine intelligences manifesting through the solar light. The Encyclopedia Britannica notes that the earliest authentic mention of Serapes is in connection with the death of Alexander. Such was the prestige of Serapes that he alone of the gods was consulted on behalf of the dying king. The Egyptian secret school of philosophy was divided into the lesser and the greater mysteries, the former being sacred to Isis and the latter to Serapes and Osiris. Wilkinson of the opinion that only the priests were permitted to enter the greater mysteries. Even their heir to the throne was not eligible until he had been crowned pharaoh, when, by virtue of his kingly office, he automatically became a priest and the temporal head of the state religion. In parentheses, it says, see Wilkinson's Manners and Customs of the Egyptians. A limited number were admitted into the greater mysteries. These preserved their secrets inviolate. I never thought of it, that it made me think of the color purple just then. Much of the information concerning the rituals of the higher degrees of the Egyptian mysteries has been gleaned from an examination of the chambers and passageways in which the initiations were given. Under the temple of Serapes, destroyed by Theodosius, were found strange mechanical contrivances constructed by the priests in the subterranean crypts and caverns where the nocturnal initiatory rites were celebrated. These machines indicate the severe tests of moral and physical courage undergone by the candidates. After passing through these tortuous ways, that's one I've looked up before, of tortuous ways, the neophytes who survived the ordeals were ushered into the presence of Serapes, a noble and awe-inspiring figure illuminated by unseen lights. Labyrinths were also a striking feature in connection with the rite of Serapes, and E.A. Wallace Budge, in his Gods of the Egyptians, depicts Serapes, minotaur-like, with the body of a man and the head of a bull. Labyrinths were symbolic of the involvements and illusions of the lower world through which wanders the soul of man in its search for truth. In the labyrinth dwells the lower animal man with the head of the bull, who seeks to destroy the soul entangled in the maze of worldly ignorance. In this relation, Serapes becomes the trier or adversary who tests the souls of those seeking union with the immortals, capitalized. The maze was also doubtless used to represent the solar system, the bull man representing the sun dwelling in the mystic maze of its planets, moons, and asteroids. The Gnostic mysteries were acquainted with the arcane meaning of Serapes, and through the medium of Gnosticism, this god became inextricably associated with early Christianity. In fact, the Emperor Hadrian, while traveling in Egypt in AD 134, declared in a letter to Servianus that the worshippers of Serapes were Christians and that the bishops of the church also worshipped at his shrine. He even declared that the patriarch himself, when in Egypt, was forced to adore Serapes as well as Christ. And then in parentheses it says, see Parsons, new light on the Great Pyramid. Have a great day, no capitals. Awesome-o. If you're the one that's leaving, whoever's leaving. The little suspected importance of Serapes as a prototype of Christ can be best appreciated after a consideration of the following extract from C. W. King's Gnostics and Their Remains. Quote, there can be no doubt that the head of Serapes, marked as the face is by a grave and pensive majesty, supplied the first idea for the conventional portraits of the Savior. The Jewish prejudices of the first converts were so powerful that we may be sure no attempt was made to depict his countenance until some generations after all that had beheld it on earth had passed away. End quote. I just caught the 111. It was 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 1 second. Ay-ya! Serapis gradually usurped the positions previously occupied by the other Egyptian and Greek gods and became the supreme deity of both religions. His power continued until the 4th century of the Christian era. In AD 385, Theodosius, that would-be exterminator of pagan philosophy, issued his memorable edict, De Idolo Serapidis Diruendo. That's the name of the edict. I'm sure I nailed it. When the Christian soldiers, in obedience to this order, entered the Serapeum at Alexandria to destroy the image of Serapis, which had stood there for centuries, so great was their veneration for the god that they dared not touch the image, lest the ground should open at their feet and engulf them. At length, overcoming their fear, they demolished the statue, sacked the building, and finally, as a fitting climax to their offense, burned the magnificent library, which was housed within the lofty apartments of the Serapeum, which is Serapeum. Damn, I don't like that. Several writers have recorded the remarkable fact that Christian symbols were found in the ruined foundations of this pagan temple. Socrates, a church historian of the 5th century, declared that after the pious Christians had raised the Serapeum at Alexandria and scattered the demons who dwelt there under the guise of gods, beneath the foundations was found the monogram of Christ! Exclamation point. Raised. R-A-Z-E-D. Just one Z. It is raised.
Raised.
Raised. Raised.
Raised.
Okay, well, where's the... Okay. Definition. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Here we go. Past tense raised. Past particle raised. Completely destroy a building, town, or other site. Villages were razed to the ground. Wow. That makes a whole lot more sense. My whole life. Razed to the ground. I was always just like, what? That doesn't make any sense. R-A-I-S-E-D. Even though I understand what they were saying, I was just like, does not compute. Okay. All right. Yeah, we're on the last page here. So yeah, raised. I think it's a big old sentence. Oh, so Socrates, a church historian of the 5th century, declared that after the pious Christians had razed the Serapeum at Alexandria and scattered the demons who dwelt there under the guise of gods, beneath the foundations was found the monogram of Christ. Two quotations will further establish the relationship existing between the mysteries of Serapis Serapes. Balls again with that. What's the disconnect in my brain here? Serapes. Serapes. Yeah. Okay. So 2 quotations will further establish the relationship existing between the mysteries of Serapes and those of other ancient peoples. The first is from Richard Payne Knight's Symbolical Language of Ancient Art and Mythology. Quote, hence Varro, in De Lingua Latina, says that colum and terra, that is, universal mind and protective body, or productive body, were the great gods of the Samothracian mysteries, and the same as the Serapes and Isis of the latter Egyptians, the Tautos and Astarte of the Phoenicians, and the Saturn and Ops of the Latins. End quote. The second quotation is from Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. Quote, "Thee," says Martianus Capella in his Hymn to the Sun, "dwellers on the Nile adore the Serapes, and Memphis worships as Osiris. In the sacred rites of Persia, thou art Mithras. In Phrygia, that's a place, right? Attis, in Phrygia, Attis, and Libya bows down to thee as Ammon, and Phoenician Byblos as Adonis. Thus the whole world adores thee under different names." End quote. Serapes. That's it. The Odinic Mysteries. The date of the founding of the Odinic Mysteries is uncertain, some writers declaring that they were established in the 1st century before Christ, others the 1st century after Christ. Robert McCoy, 33 Degree, gives the following description of their origin. Quote, "It appears from the Northern Chronicles that in the 1st century of the Christian era, Sigge, Sigge, or just Sig, the chief of the Asir, an Asiatic tribe, emigrated from the Caspian Sea and the Caucasus into northern Europe. He directed his course northwesterly from the Black Sea to Russia, over which, according to tradition, he placed one of his sons as a ruler, as he is said to have done over the Saxons and the Franks. He then advanced through Cimbria to Denmark, which acknowledged his 5th son, Skjold, Skiold, Skjold, as its sovereign, and passed over to Sweden, where Gylf, who did homage to the wonderful stranger and was initiated into his mysteries, then ruled. He soon made himself master here, built Sigtuna as the capital of his empire, and promulgated a new code of laws, and established the sacred mysteries. He himself assumed the name of Odin, founded the priesthood of the 12 Druids, who conducted the secret worship and the administration of justice, and as prophets revealed the future. The secret rites of these mysteries celebrated the death of Balder, the beautiful and lovely, and represented the grief of gods and men at his death, and his restoration to life. End quote. That's from General History of Freemasonry. After his death, the historical Odin was apotheosized, his identity being merged into that of the mythological Odin, god of wisdom, whose cult he had promulgated. Odinism then supplanted the worship of Thor, the Thunderer, the supreme deity of the ancient Scandinavian pantheon. The mound where, according to legend, King Odin was buried. The mound where, according to legend, King Odin was buried is still to be seen near the site of his great temple at Uppsala. The 12 Drotters who presided over the Odinic mysteries eventually personified the 12 holy and ineffable names of Odin. The rituals of the Odinic mysteries were very similar to those of the Greeks, Persians, and Brahmins, after which they were patterned. The Drotters, who symbolized the signs of the zodiac, were the custodians of the arts and sciences, which they revealed to those who passed successfully the ordeals of initiation. Like many other pagan cults, the Odinic mysteries, as an institution, were destroyed by Christianity, but the underlying cause of their fall was the corruption of the priesthood. The supreme, oh no wait, I've skipped a little paragraph here. Mythology is nearly always the ritual and the symbolism of a mystery school. Briefly stated, the sacred drama which formed the basis of the Odinic mysteries was as follows, semicolon. The supreme, invisible creator of all things was called All-Father. His regent in nature was Odin, the one-eyed god, like Quetzalcoatl. Odin was elevated to the dignity of supreme deity. According to the Drotters, the universe was fashioned from the body of Ymir, the hoarfrost giant. Ymir, is that how you say it? Ymir was formed from the clouds of mist that rose from Ginnungagap, the great cleft in chaos into which the primordial frost giants and flame giants had hurled snow and fire. The three gods, Odin, Vili, and Vi, slew Ymir, and from him formed the world. From Ymir's various members, the different parts of nature were fashioned. After Odin had established order, he caused a wonderful palace called Asgard to be built on the top of a mountain, and here the 12 Aesir, or gods, dwelt together, far above the limitations of mortal men. On this mountain also was Valhalla, the palace of the slain, where those who had heroically died fought and feasted day after day. Each night their wounds were healed, and the boar whose flesh they ate renewed itself as rapidly as it was consumed. Balder the Beautiful, the Scandinavian Christ, was the beloved son of Odin. Balder was not warlike. His kindly and beautiful spirit brought peace and joy to the hearts of the gods, and they all loved him save one. As Jesus had a Judas among his 12 disciples, so one of the 12 gods was false, Loki, the personification of evil. Loki caused Hother, the blind god of fate, Hother, it's got those two little dots on top of it, the O, Hothr, the blind god of faith, to shoot Balder with a mistletoe arrow. With the death of Balder, light and joy vanished from the lives of the other deities. Heartbroken, the gods gathered to find a method whereby they could resurrect this spirit of eternal life and youth. The result was the establishment of the mysteries. The Odinic mysteries were given in underground crypts or caves, the chambers, 9 in number, representing the 9 worlds of the mysteries. The candidate seeking admission was assigned the task of raising Balder from the dead, Raising, just in case you were confused. Balls, I don't know where I I saw it. Raising Balder from the dead. Although he did not realize it, he himself played the part of Balder. He called himself a wanderer. The caverns through which he passed were symbolic of the worlds and spheres of nature. The priests who initiated him were emblematic of the sun, the moon, and the stars. The three supreme initiators, the sublime, the equal to the sublime, and the highest, were analogous to the worshipful master and the junior and senior wardens of a Masonic lodge. Wow. I'm going to show you this picture, and then I'm going to read the last two paragraphs in here. But I'm going to cough for a second. One moment. Interesting. What sort of shapes? Geometric shapes? Okay. Let's pull up this last picture of this reed. It's the 9 worlds of the Odinic mysteries. Here we go. Is it all in? Yeah, it is. Boom. I love charts. I really do, though. Okay. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Boop. That's close enough. So this says, the 9 worlds of the Odinic mysteries. The Nordic mysteries were given in 9 chambers or caverns, the candidate advancing through them in sequential order. These chambers of initiation represented the 9 spheres into which the Draughters divided the universe. 1. Asgard, the heaven world of the gods. 2. Alfheim, the world of the light and beautiful elves or spirits. 3. Niflheim, the world of cold and darkness, which is located in the north. 4. Jotunheim, the world of the giants, which is located in the east. Midgard, the earth world of human beings, which is located in the midst or middle place. 6. Vanaheim, the world of the veins, which is located in the west. 7. Muspelheim, the world of fire, which is located in the south. 8. Svartalfaheim, the world of the dark and treacherous elves, which is under the earth. And 9. Helheim, the world of cold and the abode of the dead, which is located at the very lowest point of the universe. It is to be understood that all of these worlds are invisible to the senses of man, except Midgard, the home of human creatures. But during the process of initiation, the soul of the candidate, liberated from its earthly shield by the secret power of the priests, wanders amidst the inhabitants of these various spheres. There is undoubtedly a relationship between the 9 worlds of the Scandinavians and the 9 spheres, or planes, through which initiates of the Eleusinian mysteries passed in their ritual of regeneration. And the 9 gates of hell. I wonder if that has anything to do with that. Boom! Dang. Okay, so last 2 paragraphs. After wandering for hours through the intricate passageways, the candidate was ushered into the presence of a statue of Balder the Beautiful, the prototype of all initiates into the mysteries. This figure stood in the center of a great apartment roofed with shields. In the midst of the chamber stood a plant with 7 blossoms emblematic of the planets. In this room, which symbolized the house of the Aesir, or wisdom, the neophyte took his oath of secrecy and piety upon the naked blade of a sword. He drank the sacrificed mead from a bowl made of a human skull and having passed successfully through all the tortures and trials designed to divert him from the course of wisdom, he was finally permitted to unveil the mystery of Odin, the personification of wisdom. He was presented in the name of Balder, with the sacred ring of the order. He was hailed as a man reborn, and it was said of him that he had died and had been raised again without passing through the gates of death. Richard Wagner's immortal composition, Der Ring des Nibelungen, is based upon the mystery rituals of the Odinic cult. While the great composer took many liberties with the original story, the Ring operas, declared to be the grandest tetralogy, the grandest tetralogy of music dramas the world possesses, have caught and preserved in a remarkable manner the majesty and power of the original sagas. Beginning with Das Rheingold, the action proceeds through Die Walküre and Siegfried to an awe-inspiring climax in Götterdämmerung, the Twilight of the Gods. Boom. And that is the reading for today. And next time we go live, we're going to get back into the ancient mysteries and secret societies, part 3, page 29. Wow. And our first picture is the initiation ceremony of the Eleusinian mysteries. I'll just give you a quick little peeky at it. Wow. Awesome. So thanks, everyone. I'm glad we got this in. Yeah, I like this. It's so expansive. Where did I put my... Well, it's okay. I'll find it after I sign off. So thank you so much. I wish you all wonderful weeks. Lots of shifting energy. Always shifting energy, right? Yeah, the new moon, the solar eclipse. We've got the lunar eclipse coming up on the 8th. Yeah. So do it like you feel it. And thanks for joining me. I will see you next time. I'm not sure when that'll be, but I'll meet you here. Thank you. Thank you. Mwah. See you then. And